Good morning and welcome back to our third day of the 22nd Annual Women's Leadership Conference. I am Tammy Taylor and I work for OG&E and we are the speaker sponsor for this week. Thank you all for joining us this morning at the Coffee and Connections at Queen City. But keep in mind we are far from over from this week's event being complete. Thank you all for joining us again this morning at the Coffee and Connections. We are very excited about today's speaker, but first I would like to thank our sponsors. Excuse me, without them, this conference could not be possible. Our presenting sponsor is Muskogee Creek Nation Casino. Host sponsor, Indian Capital Technology Center. Speaker sponsor is OG&E. And additionally, we have First Star Bank, Green Country Behavioral Health Services, Georgia Pacific, Northeastern State University, Refresco, Connors State College, and Love Bottling. As we get started with today's presentation, please feel free to submit any questions for our speaker in the chat, and then we'll address those at the conclusion of her presentation. Today's speaker is presented to you by OG&E. I am honored to introduce to you Ariel Gray. Ariel is the founder and lead event planner of Ariel Gray Creative, otherwise known as EGC, a relationship-driven planning company serving couples, companies, and organizations in Oklahoma and across the country. Over the years, she has had the opportunity to plan everything from weddings and nonprofit galas to executive retreats and events featuring nationally recognized leaders, including UGG founder Brian Smith and Netflix famous Amanda Knox. Whether she is coordinating a wedding weekend or helping bring a leadership event to life, her goal is always the same: to serve people and to serve them well. That phrase, serve them well, is more than a business motto. It's how Ariel tries to live her life. According to Ariel, her faith in Christ is the foundation of everything she does. It shapes how she leads, how she cares for people, and how she shows up for her clients. Ariel says her husband and boys are her greatest blessings, and building a business that allows her to pursue meaningful work while being fully present for her family is something she does not take for granted. Ariel believes the best events aren't about perfection, they are about people. They're about creating space for connection, celebration, and memories that last long after the event is over. When she's not planning events, you'll likely find her vacationing with her husband and 2 boys, spending time with her mom, her sister, and extended family, trying new recipes or thrift shopping. And she says here with her sister, but I have inside knowledge that they take their husbands along too. At the end of the day, Ariel loves what she does because she loves people. She considers it an honor to walk alongside her clients during some of the most meaningful moments of their lives. Please welcome founder of Ariel Gray Creative and my daughter, Ariel Gray.
Thank you so much, Mom. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen and make sure we're good there first. I'm going to assume we're good unless told otherwise. Okay. First, that was my mom, obviously. So very grateful for not just my mom, but OG&E and the impact that it has made on our life. It's been really cool getting to watch my mom get to grow inside that company and how much they've poured back into her as a human. So in the event that Miss Alba is watching, thank you for everything you've done, not just for my mom, but for our family. Today, I'm really excited to talk to you guys. I've been praying about this for a while. This has probably changed, I would say, at least 15 times, but Mom approved it this morning. So we're going to say that this is the one we're going with. I would say that more than anything, this is just a very candid conversation regarding life, which in turn turns into a business. And so I've got my energy drink, I have my water. Let's just go ahead and jump in. So I would say once I had to kind of think about, if I had to put a title to this, what it would be is the assignment changed, but the calling never did. So quick introduction. That is me and Mom on the left. Back in the day when I didn't know that I was preparing that early to serve people. And then this picture on the right is my greatest blessings, and it's my husband and my children. I put some things on here just for you to kind of scroll through of like who I am as a person. I love the Lord deeply. I am a wife. I have 3 children, one who is no longer with us, but you will hear about him later. And then I have the privilege of being Tammy's daughter and Abby's sister. a friend to many, I think. I feel like I can meet anyone. I think I even put in here, yeah, I'm probably friends with the person checking me out at Walmart. By the time we leave, I know their name and why they're here. And more than likely, when you get in my car, you're going to hear Olivia Dean or something like a podcast, probably of Rachel Hollis or Jenna Kutcher. To tie me into Muskogee, my very first job ever was at Chet's, because who doesn't love a good Chet's hot dog? I love Chet's. I love hot dogs, so it just worked. Mom spent many a nights helping me take the trash out there, which was really fun. And then I also became a Malon's alumni and have got to continue to see Kenny Greer over the years and just tell him thank you for being one of the coolest bosses I've ever had. So really excited to chat with you guys and jump in. I'm a very structured person, or at least try to be. So I'm going to follow along on my notes right here. But just to give you guys an idea, I don't like surprises and I love spoiler alerts. Anytime a documentary comes out or anything like that, I'm going to Google what's going to happen first, because I don't like the suspense of like what is going wrong in the middle of it. And I don't think anything's going to go wrong here, but I do want to just like spoiler alert. One of the things that I've learned the most about owning a business is all of the non glamorous things are the things that work the most. So nothing in this is radical. Nothing in this is life changing. You've probably heard all of this 9 million times. And I kind of just think that's the point, is if you will kind of go with what you know and trust your gut, most of the time it's going to really work out. So that being said, honestly, I'm just living the life that I once prayed for. I have had a pretty full life in 35 years. I have been in healthcare. I have been a consultant in healthcare. I have gone through a divorce. I have had to learn what it looked like to be a single mom. I have been remarried and learned what that looked like in being remarried, relocating towns, relocating my kids, like going through all of those things definitely builds some character. We've had some significant loss in the last few years, not just me and my boys, but also our family. And I think that that definitely has built my character, not just as a person, but as a business owner. And then entrepreneurship, which has been definitely probably the craziest decision I've ever done, but one of the most rewarding things I've ever done as well. So, radical transparency, I'm still figuring things out. I am definitely waking up thinking some days that I am like, totally, okay, I have this, I know what I'm doing. And by 10 o'clock, it's like, okay, no, I do not. Let's go back to the drawing board and refigure this out. And I feel like that's just kind of rinse, repeat fairly often. So if you're looking for today to be the secret of how to be a very successful, has it all together person, I might not be the person for you, but I'm definitely going to try to give you some fun tips. So I would say that it's not a story about having it all figured out. It's actually been probably the best self development journey I've ever put myself on. There's no books for this. There's no podcasts that can tell you what entrepreneurship is going to do to you, not just as a person, but how it's going to ripple affect everybody around you as well. And I think that, social media, we love it. It's one of the things that connects us the most, but it makes it look way cuter than it really is. So this is really just about me sometimes not even knowing what my next step is and just faithfully trusting the process, that once I move to the next thing, it's all going to work out. And it's been a wild journey in creating even this slideshow of looking back at the last 10 to 15 years of small but important things that built me to be the person that I was going to be today. So this is Ariel about 10 years ago. And at this point in life, I really thought I had it kind of figured out. I thought I knew what I was doing. Backstory on how we got here. And obviously, I could spend hours on this, but if I had to condense my journey in 2 minutes of how I got to even this point, I had the privilege of going to NSU and really wanted to be a doctor. And so I double majored and I did developmental psychology and biology with a chemistry minor. It's as fun as it sounds. But also had the privilege of being on PLC, which is their president's leadership class, doing homecoming committee, all of these things that I thought were distractions. And things that I had to do to be able to keep my scholarship, and in turn, being the chair of the homecoming committee and organizing homecoming for not just the thousands of kids at NSU, but everybody of the alumni that was going to come back, and making sure that ran well definitely was a stepping stone into things that I'm doing right now. But I felt like I had something to prove looking back. And so I loved a good title. I loved thinking the title meant more respect, the title meant more success. And so, I mean, who doesn't really look up to doctors, right? And I grew up on Grey's Anatomy, wanted to be Meredith Grey, maybe not with all the life drama, but definitely wanted to be as cool and smart as Meredith Grey. We had a lot of things in our life impact us from a healthcare perspective, but we had no one in our family in healthcare. So I wanted to be the first. I wanted to go and be a doctor. I was going to fight things that had taken really important things away from me, such as cancer. We lost my grandparents very early on my dad's side, and they were instrumental in my life. They were pillars in Muskogee. If you're from Muskogee, you knew my grandparents, Delbert and Betty Sue Beckmasher. They were the reason that my faith is so strong. They're the reason I'm obsessed with Branson, but they were just, it was kind of one of those, it was too soon. And as life kept going on, my aunt ended up having some back surgeries go wrong, and it just baffled me that the system could just keep going, that someone's life could be so messed up by a mistake, but yet a mistake that impacted someone's life forever. And that person still just kept going. And so I was very passionate about how can I make a fix for this. And so that was something that I wanted to do. And I remember very vividly going to NSU and meeting my college advisor for my scholarship, who is Ken Thompson. And he had had us set in interviews of, all of these things about us so that we could know if we were getting the scholarship or not. We went up against hundreds of people. So at this point, I talked to him a few times. He calls me, tells me I got the scholarship, and the first thing he said was, I really think you need to consider hospitality and tourism management. I think you would be really great in the event space. It just is so natural to you. And I was like, oh, thank you so much, Ken, but I am going to be a doctor. And so I should have listened then, definitely. But like I said, I had something to prove. So, all that to be said, I started working at the hospital whenever I was in school, and started as a nurse aide, which is one of the most humbling experiences I think a person can have, because you're kindly taking care of people who are obviously not happy. No one likes to be sick. If you're a family member on the other side, half the time you don't understand the jargon that people are saying to you. And the nurse aide is like one of the buffers between everyone. It's just the communicator of trying to explain what's going on, and let me go get the nurse, and let me go get the doctor. And of course, it's never fast enough. And I totally understand. Um, and you get to help people when they can't help themselves. And so it taught me how to be calm, how to be attentive, and how to try to put myself in someone's shoes when they were probably acting irrational, but it was because it was not their normal. And so that definitely taught me a ton. And then I decided, oh, well, maybe I don't want to be a doctor, because actually they make a lot of money, but it felt like they were never with their family. And I've always spent a lot of time with my family. I've always wanted to be with my family. And so I decided I would go the C suite route when an opportunity came my way. So I was working on the floor, and their public relations and event planner left at the same time. And I had a relationship with someone. I had known them previously as a teenager, and they're like, hey, you'll come do this. We think you'd be great at it. I had never written a press release. I did not know any of these things. I actually said no at first, and then I thought about it and thought about it and was like, let's do it. Let's just try. And so I ripped the Band-Aid off, and long story short, I ended up really thriving in that role, and got to have the privilege of being one of their youngest directors by the time that I left, which was super neat. In that time frame, though, I went and got my master's. I ended up getting a divorce. Single motherhood is not for the faint at heart, and so I was trying to really juggle all of these things, and it ended up being able to position me to see what was truly important in my life. And so we moved to Tulsa. I got remarried. We moved to Tulsa, and we had the privilege of becoming pregnant. And we were going to have a sweet little boy named Camden. And Camden was very instrumental in my life. This couple knew me while I was pregnant. They were so kind. They were both doctors cheering us on. It was so great. And we ended up losing Camden pretty significantly further down the road than most would. And so it was a pause because I will never forget. I was at Roca. If you haven't had Roca, you should have Roca. I was at Roca with my mom and Andrew one night, and I was pregnant, and I was like, I really want to start my company. I think I can do it. At this point in life, I had planned galas. I had been asked to help people do their weddings, for free on the side. Hey, can you help us do this? All of these things. And I really crazily thought I can do this business and I can do it well. I just want to serve people in the capacity that I know that I can. And I was so fearful. And I was just telling my mom, like, I'm the one that carries the insurance. Andrew is a school teacher and a football coach, and we all know that they should definitely make more. So at that point in time, I was the breadwinner for the family, and there was all these things that felt so impactful that I had no idea how I would walk away from that. I felt so married to who I was at that point as a healthcare consultant for the tribe. And I told them, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to start side hustling it. And by the time that we have Camden, this was in the fall, by the time we have Camden in April, I'm going to start my business full time. And so I really was looking for these qualifications to prove that I could do this, and didn't realize that I had them already, in the heart for people, the eye for detail, the willingness to work hard, and this core belief that I always was like, this is something I can do in my sleep, not in a cocky way, but like I can plan events and I can plan them well. This comes so naturally to me. I don't think people should have to stress out during this. I would love to help, and obviously also get paid helping. So fast forward, I finally figure out I don't need a plan. I just need a purpose. And Camden became our purpose very quickly. So we lost Camden, and I it was this shift forward so fast into like what life was actually meaning to me, and that I was going so fast and I was trying to achieve all these titles and achieve all these merits, but but to who and why? Why were they so important if I was not having peace, if I was not present with my family, if I was not able to actually take in all of these experiences? What was the point of all of these titles I was chasing? And so I actually had the privilege of taking the confidence that came with I was going to quit for Camden, and we just moved forward. And so I put my resignation in on Camden's due date and ended up leaving corporate and working for myself. We haven't really looked back since. And so I have started understanding what was true the entire time. I was seeking all these answers of like, well, what is it going to be to be a good business owner? And what is it going to be to do this well? And it's none of the things that you see on social media. It's none of I mean, I do get to have the privilege of going to coffee with my clients, and I can go pick my kids up from school when they're sick. There are these things that people tout on social media that was very attractive to me, of like another reason I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I'm not a good W-2 employee in the sense of like, you have to get to work at this time and you can't leave until this time, and don't ask to go to Thanksgiving lunch because we have a board meeting that day. That I was just not a great W-2 employee in that regard. I always was very respectful of my job, very grateful of my job, but being told what to do, my mom would probably tell you, is not always my strong suit. So learning that I actually had what I needed, I answering the emails, following up, fixing mistakes, and being able to say you messed up, keeping promises, and showing up without the applause was probably one of the hardest things that I have had to learn since. You know, I think I always was striving for excellence and perfection, and learning that excellence was more of how I was serving. It wasn't necessarily what I was doing that I could show you on pieces of paper by means of titles or, degrees and things of that nature. Um, so I would say that entrepreneurship in itself, again, is not cute. It's not something you're going to see posting. It's the consistency over intensity. It's the discipline over mood. This has been something that has been definitely, um, something that is true that no one talks about. If you're tired, you still have clients, and you don't get to just assume that you're getting paid every other week anymore. If you don't have a client, you don't have a paycheck. And so those clients have hired you because they believe you can do the job and do the job well. And they, not in a bad way, they don't care if you're tired. And so being able to show up even when you don't want to, even when it's not necessarily practical sometimes, has definitely been something that I have then had to learn boundaries and not resentment. Not, I went into this because I wanted all of this free time, not playing that card, but in turn looking at it as I get to serve these people and also be present in my very real life. And so shifting perspective, keeping boundaries in play, and just learning to accept excellence over perfection. That has been probably the secret sauce to entrepreneurship that is truly in all of these books behind me. But I was still looking for, yeah, like, yeah, right, but tell me how to do it instead, and not realizing that most of us are doing it. You just have to be able to see through that. So I would say that character sustains the dream for sure. So all of those things, you can have as much talent as you want, but if you're not going to show up and be able to tell people why you are worth what you're charging them, I am definitely, I don't love the word luxury, but I'm in what they deem a luxury service, meaning I'm not a necessity. I think I am. I think I'm your greatest insurance plan for everything that you're spending on any event, no matter how small or how big it is. Nonetheless, I am not a necessity. I don't have to be something that anyone books. And so my pricing is steep because I have experience and because I have the ability to do things well. But I know that is not necessarily always something that people can completely take in when they're looking at pricing at the beginning of a wedding and event planner. And so going above and beyond that of really taking care of my clients and making sure that people can see that has been one of the things I think has been really eye opening for me. I think the other thing I would say is nobody builds it alone. And so I don't care how much events I've done, I don't care how many emails I've answered. The meaningfulness behind this is definitely a team effort. The team effort comes from my mom, who has been my biggest cheerleader. Who has been the classiest person I've ever met in my life through a lot of life events that we've gone through. And so watching her maneuver our life and pick up the pieces when they were not fun to pick up, and hold her head high and serve people at work when she was going through some of the hardest times of her life has been something that now I can easily do because I had this model. And so I would not be the person or business owner I am without my mom. Definitely without my sister. She's my biggest cheerleader, but she's also the person that pushes me the hardest. She knows how to push all of my buttons, but she was the first entrepreneur in the family. And she set the way for me. And I have had to call and ask her questions a lot of times of like, how would you handle this? How would you do this? Or am I crazy? Like, what did I do? Why did I leave a constant paycheck? I mean, there's all these things that we can bounce off one another. And it's really cool to share that experience with my sister. And of course, my husband, this is a dream that I've had for many, many years since I was in college, eventually, of owning my own business, not knowing what the business was, but definitely owning my own business and having someone that was right beside me to take the leap of faith. Probably the most secure person I've ever met in his faith, besides Todd T, who we're getting to. And he was so abundantly clear on that God would provide as long as we were doing what we knew we were supposed to be doing. And to have that has been such a gift that I don't take for granted because I know that not everyone has that. And so having someone that I get to do life with that believes that to his core has been such a privilege. And then having my boys, having Sawyer and Owen and Camden has been this real life test of like how I can live my best life because I want to show them how they can do that too. And so constantly trying to improve myself, not because I want to be better for acclamations, but because I want to be better for them. Every mom knows that feeling. And the whole like giving them more than I had. I don't know how I will do that because my mom gave me such a great life, but I'm sure trying. And having people in your corner like Todd Thompson has been life-changing for me as well. Todd has came into our life a little later than all of us would have loved to, but in the most perfect season of life. And up until even recently, I've had some really big movements and shifts in my business that were terrifying. It was a loss of a lot of money that I was going to be doing to my company myself, because of like a conflict of interest of how a client and I were talking about life. And having Todd that I can call and he can say, my favorite is, wait, hold on a minute when I'm spinning, or yeah, but Ariel, the Lord's had us this whole time. And being able to call and then tell him, like, oh my gosh, you were right. And him being like, I wasn't right. It was just Jesus had this plan the whole time. That's been wild to have in my corner. So if you're listening, Todd T, we love you. Redefining success has been huge for me. And I don't know if you can read that and realizing this. So we're just going to keep going. But that definitely says I had to redefine success. And so the secret now has been just that. I used to think that running a successful business meant a continual stream of more clients and a continual stream of more revenue and a continual stream of more recognition. And oh my gosh, did you guys see that last Google review? Which you guys should go look at my Google reviews. They are really good. But did you guys see that? And telling my mom and telling my sister, oh my gosh, I just got to do a private party with this person. I got to do more proof. I was striving to show people like, hey, hire me because of this. But in all reality, success now is starting to look like work I'm just genuinely proud of. And it's not because, I mean, it is very cool that I got to meet the person that founded Uggs. That's wild to say out loud. I got to do a call with Martha Stewart, also wild. But the people that I have learned to love the most have been the clients that have taught me just as much about myself as I have learned about them as I've got to go along the journey with them. And that typically is not like famous humans. And so serving people well, presence with my family. My kids make fun of me pretty regularly, but it is nothing for me to tear up in Carline every now and then because that was such a big dream of mine was like, I want to drop them off at school. I want to pick them up. I want to be the first person that gets to hear about how their day was or, mean mug someone if I thought they were being mean to my kids. But like, I wanted to be there. I didn't want to miss their life because I have missed a lot of it by chasing corporate titles. And so waking up, cooking them breakfast, letting my dog out, and all of those small things have been life changing, honestly. And peace. Peace was something I didn't realize I was chasing. And that has been something that we have strived for. I keep saying we, because if you get me, you get the three of us. It's me, mom, and Abby always. And I know that peace is something we've really strived for, since we've kind of had just some fun life things, go on. And I can finally say we're all kind of at this place, and none of us would have got here if we wouldn't have had to go through all the things that we did, but also if they wouldn't have pushed me to keep going, Errol, you can do it. Pick your head up, treat people the way we know we're going to treat them, no matter what we're going through in life. And ultimately becoming someone I respect. And so this is Sweet Cam's Hands and Feet. And I I love to see this picture regularly because it reminds me of what a gift that life is. And Camden taught me that contentment is not complacency. And so Andrew is the first person. I call him the king of contentment. Andrew can be at our house on a Saturday, drinking coffee, reading a book with zero things on his mind and zero plans. And he's the happiest person alive. And so when we had this hard shift in our life, it really made me stop. I took 3 days off of work, which was wild. I definitely should have took more off, but I took 3 days off of work, and I will never forget some of the conversations that Andrew and I had on our back patio, drinking coffee, bawling of what am I doing? if I don't stop now, I'm going to miss so much. And so, really being able to understand that I do have so many dreams, but I do have so much time. And I don't want to miss the super real life that's happening in the midst of chasing all of those dreams. And so, my company's slogan is serve them well. I think that excellence is an act of love. I think that you can't separate yourself as a person from your business. There's all of these podcasts of how to do that and work life balance and all of those things. And I just have not found that yet. So if there's anyone on the call that has found that, please tell me how. But I think that you show up as who you are in your company. And so it has become a life standard more than anything. And it influences how I lead my team. It influences how I care for people, but it also influences how I show up for my family. And so I would say that I just want to create a space for people to experience life's meaningful moments, but let them be present and be deeply cared for in that moment and let them just see all of these things coming to life through their life celebrations that they're throwing and let me worry about if catering showed up and all of those things. So I've learned that in that it's becoming the person that God can trust with more is how my business grows. There's always this lull of like, oh my gosh, no one's hired me in a week or 2 weeks. And what is happening? My business is going under. You always find these things, and it always reigns to be true that it requires capacity. And the capacity also requires integrity and stewardship and discipline and humility and obedience and faithful in the small assignments and really serving the people well that I have on the books right now so that I'm not chasing the next client. I'm being appreciative for the things that I have right now. So I would challenge anyone that this has made any sense to take that next faithful step. That has been the coolest part of my journey is not the entire plan. It has literally just been the next faithful step. And that business thing I was just telling you about the same day, the exact same day. And I don't believe this is like a coincidence. I believe this is just a part of the plan. The same day that I took a client off of my business that would hit substantially over $40,000 a year, I got an opportunity that would be replacing that. And so there is something to be said about the faith of what you're going to be doing. So don't miss life. Don't be so consumed with building the next chapter that you fail to recognize those things right in itself of what I just told you about. The taking the faithful step, feeling actually insane to take this step, and then realizing not even an hour later, here comes the next thing. And it really does work out. And you do survive, you do build something meaningful, and you do get to love people well and do work that matters. It's not easy and it doesn't come for free, but if you're willing to do the work, you definitely can. So that's kind of my speech. I hope that all made sense. I didn't read any of my notes, so I'd be happy to answer any questions if there's any questions right now.
Okay, well, it looks like we are, there's not any questions right now. So if anyone has any, I'm sure that I do have a connection to Ariel and I will give you her phone number. But I will just say I have the screen time, so I think I have the freedom to say, great job, babe.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for your transparency. Thank you for sharing your heart. Certainly, I hope someone was able to receive something out of your story today and take that and apply it to their lives. So again, thank you so much, Ariel.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we're going to get to business. Everyone, please make sure that you follow along on the Muskogee Women's Leadership Conference Facebook page for Women in Muskogee Recognition. Each day I know they're highlighting a wonderful woman in the city of Muskogee who's been nominated by another wonderful woman. So look forward to going back and looking at those and then following those each day until the conference is over. This year's Women's Leadership Conference speakers are being recorded. So if you would like to catch up on the speakers or rewatch today's session, go to the link provided in today's Women's Leadership email that you'll receive. Okay, so this is our last virtual session this week, but we are excited to see everyone who has registered for tomorrow's Women's Leadership Luncheon. This is a sold-out event, and it will take place at Indian Capital Technology Center, where the doors will open at 11 a.m. Please enjoy the first hour to shop local boutiques, business pop-up shops, and booths. You're going to enjoy a wonderful lunch and then catch up with other conference attendees. At noon, you will then hear from the keynote speaker, Stacy Leeds, who is president of the University of Tulsa and a Muskogee native. So now it is giveaway time, and we are going to spin the wheel. Today's giveaway is a $100 Visa gift card donated from TTCU Federal Credit Union. And let's see who our lucky winner is. I have to jump over here. Congratulations, Kim White. You have won a $100 Visa gift card donated again from TTCU Federal Credit Union. So congratulations, Kim. We would like to thank you all for joining us today and can't wait to see everyone tomorrow.